Well, you guys are good listeners. And I'm going to tell you why that's important to me, because as we pull candidates in, I have had recruiting firms before that it was literally just a dump truck dump. And it was everybody who had a pulse. You guys took the time on the front end to find out exactly what we were looking for, to filter for us on the front end so that only the cream that rose to the top made it to me.
All right. Sandy Cerami coming at you live right now on the Automotive Intel Report, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So giving everybody a quick shout out there. I'm amped up. The guy to your left and probably your right on the screen is somebody that I have been almost kind of like bromancing. And had for the last
I'm looking forward to it too, Sandy.
Yeah. Well, dude, just the mindset piece of it has been such a magnet for me to you.
Right.
And I tell you, one of the things I miss about not being on Clubhouse as much as I had been in the past, as we've rolled up our sleeves here, was really getting a chance to share time with you and really hear what's happening in your world, but how you get it done. I just love it. So we got my man, Mr. Mike Dorazio. He is the consummate entrepreneur. He has been gracious enough to join us here today. We got my right-hand guy at the bottom of the screen today, Mr. Ron Marvo, the man with the devastating right hand, former Gold Gloves champion.
And you were Golden Gloves, Ron?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
My father was Golden Gloves back
in
1963. I posted about him today, man. So
yeah, I saw that. It's God bless your father, man. What a strong guy.
I still have the. What's funny about that is that fight, the guy that he fought against, 30 some years later, when I was a GM at a Ford store, walked into my office and gave me a picture of that fight.
Wow!
And then it was really touching. So good stuff, man. I'm glad to hear
that's priceless. That's
it was great.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike, and thank you for your service. I know you're a Marine. My father was 82nd Airborne, so I appreciate you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the right company.
For sure. Ditto.
Amen. Thank you for your service, bro. Always. I think you brought a lot of that Marine mentality into your business world as well. And we're going to talk about that because you are the king of FITFO. We'll talk more about FITFO as we get into this. We got to pay the bills here real quickly. So before we get started, and I do a little bit of a background on Mike, let's talk about SCA 365 recruiting by Sandy Cerami and Associates. Most dealers and GMs become frustrated kissing frogs on a perpetual basis. And more often than not, they're thin slicing the labor market and only looking for people when they have an absolute dire, urgent need to fill an open position. And so, over at Sandy Cerami and Associates, we take a completely different approach. As a matter of fact, we offer a free PDF right on our website at sandycerami.com. It's called The 7 Deadly Recruiting Sins You Need to Know Right Now. You can download it for free. We talk about the 7 sins in detail. So go to the website and download it at your convenience. But we've recently run a number of campaigns, and the number of quality applications is mind-blowing, in the hundreds, of quality applications that we have a chance to forward and screen and forward, if you will, to our clients. So check it out today. Go grab your free PDF. We're also brought to you by Priority Payments Local. Whether it's supply chain disruptions or the market in general that is causing a little bit of disruption in your business, looking at expense control is critically important for dealer principals, GMs, and controllers in the marketplace today. And so we strategically partnered with Priority Payments Local. You can go to sandycerami.com/priority, all lowercase, for more details and learn how you could potentially recruit at either no charge or a reduced charge on a regular basis. You need to be in the market every single day because we're always at high noon, Mikey, looking for great people. We got to catch the great people and the top talent when they're at high noon, and that's not going to be every day. So you got to be there when they're at high noon, not just when you're at high noon. In the meantime, we got my man, Mr. Mike Dorazio. He is the dealer principal of, I believe it's 6 Mitsubishi stores now. Is that correct?
Well, actually, we have we're opening up our 6th location. 2 of those are Mitsubishi franchise. The other 4 are all pre-owned. Our 6th location's opening in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Here we'll be open in mid-July, and that's our 4th pre-owned location.
Awesome.
We're campaigning for another Mitsubishi point, and hopefully we get that in 2023 when they go back to dealer development. But for now, we have 4 pre-owned and 2 Mitsubishis. Our first Mitsubishi store last year finished 2021 ranked 9th in the nation out of 313 Mitsubishi stores after only 2 years in business. So we're pretty proud of that. That's a pretty big accomplishment.
That's awesome, buddy. Speed of the leader, as you know, speed of the leader, speed of the pack. And one of the reasons why I've been looking so forward to having a chance to have you on the Automotive Intel Report was because I view you as you're not the typical car dealer.
No.
You're not the typical anything, to be completely honest with you. And I say that
I've heard.
Well, yeah, we've had a couple of conversations with your team and with your wife, and so we've heard some of the Mikey D stories. But the thing I love about you is you represent something you call FITFO, the FITFO mentality. And we're going to keep the language at a minimum, but FITFO is figure it the F out. And the first time I heard you say it on Clubhouse, I said, "Oh my God, man, that is my dude." Talk a little bit about the FITFO mentality. Where did you first adopt it, and how has it helped you drive success in your life and in your business?
Well, I think it started with me. It's kind of been part of me my whole life. I didn't put the words together, the whole figure it the F out, until I was into my entrepreneur journey. And early on with this company, I started with 1 employee 9 years ago. I went to 2 employees, a couple months in, and we grew to 9 years later. We have 140 plus employees right now. And along through that journey, I had to figure it out. And, I didn't stress the small stuff, right?
Right.
And you get a lot of people that get just so consumed with every little struggle along the way. And they don't just we will figure this out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was my response. From a lot of these problems coming at me, we just need to FITFO. We're going to work through this process one way or another. And we just have to be optimistic in our approach to it that we will get to the other side of this issue, whatever it might be, whether it's, inventory issues, marketing issues, financial issues, cash flow issues. If your determination is there and your willpower is there to get through it, you're going to figure it out. And that's where it developed that whole mentality. And now when people come to me now, all that I have to say is you need to FITFO, right? Okay, either you need to FITFO or let me FITFO, right? Yep. So, and that's where the mentality started. But it was that journey from zero to where we are today that really got me in that mindset. That I think a lot of people just get consumed with problems and they blow them out of proportion. Or if they just dissect them a little better and work through them, they'll eventually get through them. Yeah,
I think you make a great point. I call it barbed wire that you get hung up on with the little things that really shouldn't hold you back and they won't have a long-term matter of importance when you look at the big picture, right? It's a matter of how do we move forward? How much of that comes from your background in the military, specifically in the Marine Corps? How much of that do you derive from your Marine Corps experience?
Well, and I think my whole Marine Corps experience, has taught me so many lessons along the way. I mean, I could go on for days just about that, and just a sidetrack on one of the most, I was thinking about this morning, one of the most important leadership lessons I learned in the Marine Corps was early on in boot camp when the drill instructor saw something in me and he said, "Look, I'm going to make you a squad leader." So there's 4 squad leaders in a platoon in boot camp, and then you have a guide. And my leadership skills at that point were very limited. So I just, emulated the drill instructor. So when I wanted to get something done, I would just scream at my guys. They said, "Hey, your squad has to do this." So I'd turn around and just scream, "This is what you got to do." I'd just berate them. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, about halfway through boot camp, and I was pretty comfortable in my position. They said, "Hey, we're going to switch out squad leaders." So I had to go back into the squad. I was no longer in charge. And I had no idea that was a possibility. But what it taught me was when I tried to relate to my fellow Marines at that point, they're like, "Hey, screw you," kind of, because you were a total jerk when you were in charge. And that lesson was probably one of the most important lessons in my leadership development, because I figured out early on that it's a teamwork. Whether you're the leader or not, you have to be part of that team, and you have to be respected by your team, and you have to have empathy for everybody in that team and work together. So that's one of the biggest lessons I learned in the Marine Corps. And then just, general leadership traits that you'll pick up along the way, decisiveness, unselfishness, dependability, bearing. The people look to you and they look to you for enthusiasm, and they look to you for direction and all those things. So all those little things that I think I learned in the Marine Corps to drive people in general, not just a company, but you want to have people that follow you and believe in your vision. And in order to get there, you have to have some of those leadership traits.
Yep, and take ownership of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's different ways to apply those leadership characteristics and traits. Whether we're talking about being in the field of battle or being in the field of business, there are different ways that you can apply those characteristics in a similar way, but not the same way. And I think that's part of the journey that you're talking about, where you learned how to kind of soften them when you needed to, take some of the rough edges off, and learn how to collaborate as much as anything else.
Yeah, and you have to know when to have the initiative and tact. Tact is another thing. Like, how do you approach things, right? And there's a lot of leaderships, styles out there, and there's some right, some wrong. But the leadership traits that I look down on are guys that claim to be leaders, but they're not willing to go in and do the dirt with their fellow troops, right?
So true.
They'll call themselves a leader, but they'll be working from Belize off their boat. And they're like, well, I'm the leader. Well, you're not really the leader of this company because you're in Belize and you're not really hands-on, right? And it's kind of like when you go back to the military, if a platoon is in combat and we're facing the enemy, and my staff sergeant that's in charge of that platoon says, hey, you know what? I'll be back at the rear and just call me if you need me, right? I mean, you still have respect for that guy? No, the minute he leaves, you've lost respect, and another leader is going to stand up. Another leader is going to step up and say, hey, forget about that guy. He's back at the, and here we are. So I'm going to lead from here. So there's just a lot of things that I look at things a lot in a combat sense because of that combat training. I mean, I went through infantry training school with the Marine Corps, and I found all those methods through that.
It reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Hamburger Hill, with Clint Eastwood.
Hey, Hamburger Hill. Yeah. So Hamburger Hill was filmed in Manila. I'm an extra in Hamburger Hill.
Come on, man. Are you kidding me?
I was on the set for 2 weeks. When I was in the Philippines, I was there 2 years. They came to B Company Marine Barracks and they screened us for extras in the movie. And I was selected as an extra. So I'm one of the guys that's like coming up the hill. And 2 weeks. That's
awesome. So now I'm going to have to.
We're going to have to rewatch it.
That is great. And by the way, why am I not surprised that you got selected as an extra?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it was quite an experience too, just to be around those people while they were filming in that experience. They had the best food tent that you could ever imagine, right? You could eat all day. And they got you dirty every morning and made you look like you were in combat. It was a pretty interesting experience, and I enjoyed it. And what's funny about that story is I was sitting there and they would pay you like $50 extra if you got a close-up. And I'm sitting next to my friend. His name was Zoch, Z-O-C-H, right? And they would come over and say, hey, I need one Marine for a close-up. And I jumped up. He jumped up. They selected him. He got this scene where he's dying, right? Now, every time I watch the movie, I have to watch that scene. That should have been me, but pretty good stuff.
So did you get a SAG card?
Yeah, no. It was filmed in the Philippines. So I think that there was, different stuff going on over there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I bring that movie up because it speaks right to your point. Gunny in that movie is not afraid to roll around in the slop with his troops, and he gets dirty, right? Yeah. He's a guy that epitomizes what you're talking about. And I think there are aspects of leadership where you really do need to roll up your sleeves and remind your team that you can get the job done along with them, and that ultimately you're there to help shoulder the load. But from a leadership perspective, you can't be in every battle, right? It becomes, especially if you've got 6 rooftops. And I know we're going to talk more about your other endeavors because you are a true entrepreneur, pure entrepreneur. I sensed that about you immediately when I started to see the other things that you were doing. I said, he really does embody everything there is, and that I love about those dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneurs that see an opportunity, see a problem, they just want to go and leverage and exploit and fix it. But the flip side to that movie is a movie called 12 O'Clock High, where, and it's an old one, so you got to look for it, but it's worth watching. One of the best leadership movies I've ever seen because it epitomizes getting too close to the field of battle and starting to feel everything as if you were a foot soldier when you're trying to lead a group, or he's leading his squadron at that point. But, we have to delicately balance those two things, getting in there, rolling up our sleeves, and then also pulling ourselves back and up to a different altitude so we can get a different perspective. How do you balance the two?
Well, I always insert myself when I'm needed, right? But at the same time, I want to train those people and I want to delegate. That was one of the hardest things for me to learn was how to delegate and how to trust, right? And I've talked about this many times before, and it's just finding the right people. I tell everybody, my three things for success, my three top things, the reason why I'm successful is I surround myself with the right people. I surround myself with the right people. And number three, I surround myself with the right people.
Right. Yeah. It's all the above. Right.
And that's it. It's not me. And I give all the credit to the crew. The only credit I'll give myself is selecting the right people.
Sure.
And understanding that they're aligned with me and they're aligned with my vision. And, they have the good values and good character and the integrity that I can walk away and let them do their thing. And that's really, but at the same time, I'm willing to go in there and do whatever I'm going to ask them to do. So if there's a gap that needs to be filled, I mean, if it's washing a car, going to get gas, desking a deal, spinning paperwork, whatever it might be, making phone calls, following up on a customer problem, whatever it might be, I can insert myself and I pride myself in doing that. And that comes from coming up through this company. Like I said, 9 years ago, I had one employee. So at that time, when I had one employee, I was the guy taking the up. I was the guy spinning the paperwork. I was washing the car. I was getting gas. I was submitting the deal to the bank. I was rehashing with the bank. I was packaging that deal for funding. I was doing the titles. I was doing the accounting. I've had limited experience in every one of those aspects of the business. I was doing the marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So I still can insert myself with some level of knowledge in that position. But I think that's, the key to being able to lead people is also to lead and be able to do the exact same thing you're asking them to do.
Yeah, it's figuring it out, as you say, FITFO.
Yeah,
Let me take you back for just a second, Mikey. Take me back to the point in time when you're at Westlake and you make a decision to go on your own. Talk a little bit about the decision-making process, what inspired you, what motivated you to make the move?
Well, it goes back even longer than that. I was a partner in a Ford dealership back in 2003, and it didn't work out. Long story, but I switched gears and went to work for Westlake Financial. And one of the reasons why it didn't work out in my Ford partnership is because I didn't have the majority percentage of it. And I went to Westlake, and
it's a valuable lesson, expensive, but a valuable lesson to learn.
This was probably the hardest thing that I went through, and the best lesson I could have learned was that experience prior to my time at Westlake. And I was so disgusted with retail. I was like, you know what? I'm switching careers. I'm going to go on a different path. I got the opportunity to go to Westlake Financial. And I remember telling my manager at Westlake, I'll give you 10 years. But here's my goal. My goal in the next 10 years is to save up enough money to open up my own store. I left 9 years, 3 months later. So I was pretty much good to my word.
Yep.
Throughout that journey, and this is what people don't understand about starting a business. And you get a lot of these younger guys that say, hey, how do I do that? How do I get there? Well, it starts with a plan, right? And you have to have, and sometimes that plan doesn't sound the way you want it to sound, or it's not going to be as easy as you think it is. And my plan at that time was to save up X amount of dollars, which I knew was going to take me 10 years because I had to have a nice set of cash flow because I knew how easily you could lose that cash flow. So I set out, over those 10 years, and it got to the point at the end where I was getting close, and I wasn't happy either. Even though I was making really good money with Westlake Financial, I've been promoted to the East Coast divisional manager. I had 28 states. I had 30 some guys underneath me. I mean, you would have thought that from the outside looking in, I was a happy individual, but I was miserable. I wasn't waking up and happy to go to work. And it just became time. So I went to my wife, and I remember saying to her, I said, look, I'm 40, I'll be 45 years old. If I don't do it now, I've been talking about this for 30 years. If I don't do it now, I don't have 30 more years to talk about it. So now's the time. And we had 2 kids at the time. And She backed me. So if she wouldn't have backed me and gave me her backing 100%, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Right. I remember saying, I don't want to be Colonel Sanders. Like,
Right.
Yeah. Colonel Sanders started when he's 65.
Yeah.
This is kind of my last chance. and I left a very high paying job and I opened up a store. Like one employee, I got a $200,000 floor plan. I put all my money into the company and it was hard. I paid myself $4,000 a month. I mean, and that's what people don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that you have to have a plan to save that money over a long period of time. It's not, no one's just going to hand it to you. No one's going to hand you a store unless you have skin in the game. Well, how do you get skin in the game? The only way you get skin in the game is cash, right? How do you get cash? The only way you get cash is to start saving your money to get there and set a goal. You know, these guys are instant gratification, or not everyone, but a lot of people are instant gratification people that like, they get it, they spend it, they get it, they spend it. They want the boat, they want the house, they want the nice car. I sacrificed all that stuff for years. So it made the transition for me very easy because I was going into a business and I had set my life up like I only made $4,000 or $5,000. I had a mortgage and a car payment, right? So now I got a car dealership. I can get rid of the car payment. I got a mortgage. I got a mortgage to pay. I got a business to run. And that was the only bills that I had. So I was able to not pay myself a lot of money and suffer through. I didn't look at it as suffering. I looked at it as a relief and something, an opportunity. But as far as financially, it was suffering. And that was what, you know, a lot of people, you know, when I talk to these younger guys, I try to give them a plan. Like, here's your plan. Take the next 10 years, take $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, whatever you can afford to save. If you really want to open up your own store, let's get a chunk of change in the bank and save it up so that you can withstand that. Because even with that savings, I still almost went under. I mean, I still almost didn't make it. Yep. If I would have had 20 grand less, I might not be sitting here talking to you today. I might be taking ups down to Lexus store this afternoon, right? So it was a very thin line where you know, I was either going to make it or not. And you know, but it paid off. You know, the first couple of years was very tough. You know, and now obviously you see. You know, I always joke and say I'm an overnight success after 30 years.
Right, but that's the point, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about the delayed gratification piece of it. You talk about the pain, being willing to not only it's self-inflicted, right, and then you've got to endure it. And there's many days because we've shared a similar journey. I mean, there's many days you wake up and you wonder whether or not it's all worth it. And then you focus on what the long-term vision is. And you have to have, I talk about this with Ron and anybody that will listen to me, you've got to have a daily sense of urgency to work on the stuff that's urgent. And then you have to have the patience of that, like Chinese thinking, the 1,000-year thinking, to allow the results to catch up with all of those things you're doing on a daily basis, because it doesn't happen right away. Nobody is an overnight success. There's always a backstory to it. And that's why I think you're, as I said to you, the perfect example of somebody that knows how to build businesses literally from the ground up. I mean, as a one-person operation, that reminds me of Ray Catena. And if you know who Ray Catena is, you know, Ray Catena started with a dealer plate and his own checkbook under his arm and walked into a dealership to buy his first car to drive to his next stop to buy his second car. And that's a fact. I know that because, and Ron knows, I know Ray personally for my entire life. He is that guy. He's still a guy that you know, when I pick up the phone and call him, Ron's been in the room, he still answers his phone. I mean, he's at the pinnacle, the top of the business, and still involved like it's his first day in the business. And I think that's part of the secret, having that passion like you do, that enthusiasm that you do, and the vision. Okay, the vision that you had, I think, is critically important too. Talk a little bit about marrying all that with top talent, the right people. We talked about Hartle before. I'm a Steve Hartle fan.
Big fan.
You talked about adding him to the team. Talk about how important top talent is in your organization and helping you scale and grow.
No, absolutely. I mean, 100%. If you don't have people that you can delegate to, that, you know, have integrity and have those values and that character, I mean, you're not going to go anywhere. You're only going to go as fast as your crew, man. Like the Marine Corps says, man, we go as fast as our slowest guy. So you need to have top talent. And there's different ways. I mean, obviously recruiting that talent is tough and difficult, man, because most talented individuals are content in where they're at. And that's why they're talented and content, because they're good and they're probably paid and they're taken care of and all that stuff. So finding those people in a startup, I mean, 50, 60, 70% of the people you're going to recruit, there's a reason why they're available, right? Because they're bouncing around they're serial job hunters, and they just happen to land on you this time. And so it's a real long development to really get that team behind you. I think, the 1 year I counted, I went through 10 technicians, and I only had 5 technicians at the time. I went through 10, so I turned it twice. And, I was lucky enough early on to recruit a couple young guys that they're still with me today. My 2 oldest employees, and I trained them the way I wanted them to be trained. And we sat together in the same dealership for 5 years, and I really got them tuned in. But in order to grow, we needed to go outside the box and find talent. And I think what happened with us as a company is once people saw the success of our company, they counted us out at the beginning. This little story. Good luck with that, Mike. Yeah, good luck, buddy.
Yep,
and then, as we started to grow, and we're 50 deals a month, and then 80, and then 100, and 140, and then these guys are doing 200 deals a month. Okay, now people start to pay attention, and we've actually turned from having to recruit very heavily years ago to now, they're coming at us, and we can decide who we want to join the team and who we don't want to join the team. But it's crucial to have that high level talent. I try to hire people that I feel are a lot better than me, right? That's who I want on my team. And that's another leadership trait. I think that people that get intimidated by talent, it should be the exact opposite. You should welcome people that you feel are better than you, that can bring and teach you something. Steve Hartwell's a good example. He taught me the inventory turn, the importance of a lot of different things, the importance of the systems and the importance of accountability and things that I just lack. And I'll admit that I lack, right? But now I don't lack it because I have Steve as part of my team, right? So he brought that to the table to me. And now as an organization, we're stronger and better for it. And there's a lot of individuals throughout my stores that are like that I could tell a bunch of stories about. But I think that the key is not to be intimidated by talent. I remember as a young manager, back when I first was a sales manager, and this is going back, in the 90s. So that's how old I am. But I remember interviewing a guy. And it was early in my career, and the guy came in and just blew my socks off. And I was like, wow. And then he left, and I thought, well, this guy will have my job, but I still want him because he's so dang good, right? And I think that's the key is you shouldn't be intimidated. You shouldn't try to protect your position because, strength in numbers. Bring as much talent as we can together because we're going to run even faster and we're going to achieve a lot more things together. I
think you raised 2 excellent points. And the first one is usually with highly talented people, there's one of 2 things that happen in my experience. It's either something happens in their personal life, whether they've just gotten married, just gotten engaged, just got divorced, just had a kid, just sent the kid off to college, want to buy a new house, whatever the case may be, there's something in their personal life that has them pick their head up and look around for another opportunity. Right. And then sometimes on the professional side, it could be a change in ownership, a change in management, a change in pay plan. It could be any number of things on the professional side that triggers their entry into the labor market. And that's why it's important to be there, when they're there, or to have the kind of reputation that you guys have developed as a place where top performers go. Because the second point that you made with respect to looking for top talent and not being intimidated by them, but really being motivated and inspired by how they can help you elevate not only your game personally, but your business in total. I think it's just such a smart way to look at it. So
look, you should always be recruiting, right? And this is the one thing that I really enjoy about what I do is creating opportunities for other talented individuals in the industry that might feel like I felt 10 years ago when I wanted to go out on my own.
Bingo. Right?
So I built this company. My motivation to start this company was because I wanted to build a company that I liked to go work at. Right. I didn't want to be like some Mac Daddy owner. Like that wasn't my motivation. I wanted to build a company where I could control the culture of that company. I could control that environment so that I like to go to work. And I surrounded myself with like-minded people that were friendly, easy to get along with. We always say we vote the jerks off the island, we snuff their torch. And that's because we don't want them. I don't want that negativity. So when I created this environment and I realized that people don't leave, people don't want to leave, people enjoy working here because I enjoy working here. That's what I developed. That's the culture I developed. So, adding more opportunities is one of the main reasons behind my growth, because there's so many people in the market that continually come to me. And the only way I can provide more opportunities is to open more stores, expand, bigger.
Yeah. Oh, right? My goodness.
And that's really, at this point, I'm not doing this for the money. I mean, if I wanted to do this for the money, I could have quit 3 years ago and went fishing, for the rest of my life and checked in once a day and to see where the bank account was at. That's not my motivation. My motivation is to give opportunities to other people, right? And that's really where I find joy is like, look, recruiting this individual, talented individual, might not be reaching up to his full potential because he just wasn't given that opportunity or she wasn't given that opportunity. And let me provide an opportunity for them to excel at and then mentor them along the way. And then sit back and I enjoy that part of it.
You said something so inspiring to me because it's the second time I've heard it in the last year. I don't know if you know Adam Aarons. You probably know who he is, and you probably interacted with him on Clubhouse from time to time. Adam Aarons, who is the dealer operator for the Patriot Auto Group, and just an awesome, really unique individual, somebody that has blazed a really different path in the car business. And he said something to me because I said, what's the end game for you? He said, my end game is right now, I've got more money than I'll ever need in my lifetime. He said, I don't need any more stores. The only reason I'll buy another store right now is to create opportunity for somebody on my team that's earned it. And that speaks to exactly the point that you just made. I think
I look at these guys sometimes and I like, look, this guy, I could develop this guy to run his own store. But if I don't have the store to run, and look, we've all experienced this in our careers. When in my younger days, when I'd go into a dealership and the GM was there for 20 years and the GSM was there for 18, the finance guy was 15 years. And you look around, there's no opportunity there. You could be Grant Cardone and walk into that store and you're never going to rise because the opportunity just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I found out not only for my own satisfaction of expansion and taking on new challenges, but also to provide those opportunities for the people within the organization that deserve a chance to do that. And we have a young guy over in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who, is a good example of that, Anthony Dolphin, where like I got that store and I said, look, here's your opportunity. Like this is, and not to knock him, but that opportunity probably would have been years away at that time for him. He probably would have eventually got it. But here I thought I saw something in this kid. I said, look, if you want it, let's go make it happen. Prove to me that you can do this. I'll mentor you as much as I can. But I get satisfaction out of that, right? I get satisfaction out of his growth and watching him pursue his aspirations and his ambitions, and that's for me, that's what it's all about at this point. And that's where my growth mindset comes from.
Yeah.
It's providing opportunities.
It speaks to Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership, where you get to the point where your ultimate goal is to help others get where they want to go.
Right.
And I so respect you for it. I have like goosebumps right now because this interview is exactly what I anticipated it was going to be. One of the other points that you just made with respect to culture is something I've talked about for the better part of the last 2 decades. And that is that culture, great culture and shitty culture, I'm going to use the word, do the very same thing. You can cut them with a knife, okay? Because you can feel them when you walk into an operation. But great culture spits people out that don't fit and are not congruent with the core values of an organization like poison. And that's what you're talking about. You attract like-minded people, but you also quickly get rid of people that poison your culture.
And my employees hold me to it. My saying since day one is we vote the a-holes off the island. Right? I won't say it, but that we will snuff your torch. We will bring the council in and we will snuff you out. And when I interview people, I tell them that. I said, don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. because we will snuff your torch. And it's eventually, no matter how hard they try to hold it back, if that's in their nature, it's going to come out. You might get a good 60, 90 days out of them, but then, it comes out and you're like, okay, well, I told you not to go that way. Boom, we're going to snuff your torch. And my employees hold me to that. So when I'm second guessing myself and trying to give these opportunities, I'm like, oh man, maybe I can get this guy to come around. Maybe I can get this girl to come around. Let me go talk to her once again. Let me have another conversation. My employees will say, Mike, what's your motto? Like, we've already determined that this person is toxic. So let's just, and look, that makes everybody feel good. It's like cancer. If you have a piece of cancer, when it comes out, right, you're gonna feel better almost immediately. And that's what we strive for. And I love the fact that my employees hold me to that, because I will drop the ball on that sometimes too.
But you're also willing to listen, Mike, right? Like, you're a leader that's actually involved. Like you were saying earlier, there's so many things that personally I'm listening to at 30 years old. I learned so much being around everybody that Sandy, graciously brings me around. And you're one of those people that I look up to as a leader, because you are giving people the opportunity to grow. You are looking at somebody as a potential blank canvas. If they have those soft skills, they have that drive, that willingness to win, and cultivate them. And not everybody is like you. And I think that's so important to point out. I love what you're doing, Mike. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And like, I didn't realize that, the things I do, to me, are common sense, right? And I mean, like, I'm just thinking, like, it's common sense to me, but coming up through the business, it's like, I just don't see that from a lot of other people, right?
Correct.
It just never made sense to me. And that was one of my motivations to start this company. Is like, look, I'm going to do it the way I think it should be done. And, I wasn't as sure in myself then as I might be now, but obviously something was right and something clicked, and people liked the culture, and people like, other people being friendly and not being jerks, right? So, like, something worked.
Well, they could also go up to you, right? I'm sorry, Sandy. Like, people can approach you and say, "Hey, this guy, we got to snuff his torch." Not everybody can do that with their leaders.
Every decision I make in this company, every decision, almost every decision, is not my sole decision. I wear everything on my sleeve. I talk things through with a lot of different people, and I test it on them, right? Now, I might talk something through with 10 people and them not agree with me, and I might still ultimately make the same decision I was going to make, because maybe I have more knowledge of the risk factors than they do, right? And I'm willing to take that risk when they see it as too risky, right? But I still take the feedback. So everyone that gets hired to this company gets multiple people signing off on it before it even gets to me. I'm the last person to sign off. Anyone getting dismissed or fired or their torch snuffed, right? It's a joint decision. It's never just me going in, I'm having a bad day, and say, "Hey, you get out of here." Hey, you totally screwed up. That was our best guy. What'd you do? Right? Yeah. That was our best girl. What'd you do? So, like, we talk all this stuff through, and everyone that knows me knows that I'm approachable. Everyone knows that I'll take criticism. Everyone knows that I welcome the challenge and the discord, and I welcome the criticism. And, that's how my thought process works. I want to test that with all of you. I mean, this is a family unit, right? And it shouldn't be a dictatorship. I don't come home and say, "Hey, we're going to Disney World, pack your bags." Right. Well, we don't want to go to Disney World. Well, I don't care, right? You're going to go. It just doesn't work. So you're going to talk that through, like, "Hey, where would you guys like to go? How would you like to operate? How would you like to do this?" And then you're going to, of course, you make the ultimate decision and you make the final decision. But everyone in my company knows that we talk these things through, and it works really well. And like when we're hiring someone, we talk it through for sometimes weeks. When we're letting someone go, it's sometimes weeks. And all the direction and the visions that I have for the advancement of the company is run by so many people. I mean, I've been criticized. My wife would criticize me for, "Man, you just tell everybody what you're ready to do." And I said, "Well, everybody knows what Chick-fil-A does, right? No one's copying Chick-fil-A. Right. I haven't seen anybody do as good as Chick-fil-A yet. So who cares if I'm telling everybody what I'm going to do? I'm telling everybody what I'd like to do because I want the feedback, whether it's positive, negative, and whatever aspect of the business is. I want that feedback because I'm going to digest it, and then I'm going to come up with that ultimate decision."
Well, I'm going to tie it back to what we were talking about at the start with respect to your military experience. And in the military, a lot of the leadership is one-way communication, especially in the field of battle. It's leadership communicating to the troops, right? But when you get into the business world, two-way communication becomes critical. And when we talk about somebody being a great communicator, that doesn't mean they can just articulate effectively and have a wonderful vocabulary. It also means that they know how to, what Ron says all the time, actively listen, right? And really listen to what the feedback or communication that you're getting from your team is. And I think that invites something I think is a critical element of killer culture, which is reciprocal accountability. And you talked to it before where you said, my people hold me accountable for the core values that I have instilled in the organization and then in them as they join the team. And I think that's it's such a smart and healthy way to run a business.
You know what I refer to that as? I call that relational intelligence, right?
Yes.
That's what you have to work on.
Yep.
So the better you are with your relational intelligence, and that's where those things are going both ways, right? And that's how family units or good businesses will work. Like it's going to be a two-way street. I can't expect you to have good values, good character, right? Integrity, and be ambitious and motivated and friendly and honest and right, if I'm not the exact same way to you. Mm-hmm. So I would never expect that to be a one-way street. I would never come in there and just say, this, do as I say, not as I do. No, I'm going to lead by example. If I'm asking you to move the lot, I'll be right there next to you. I'll move cars with you. If I'm asking you to make phone calls, hey, do you need me to help you make phone calls? If I'm asking you to go get gas in the car, do you need me? I'm willing to do the exact same thing I'm asking you to do. And listen, if they can't trust, right, in you, then how can you expect to trust in them? So they have to, you have to give what you expect.
Let's switch gears for just a second because I want to hop back onto the entrepreneurial aspect of the conversation. You started a business out of thin air with some guts, your own capital, your own sweat equity, which I so admire and appreciate. And you've now created a going concern, I'm going to call it, a profitable business that now spits off positive cash flow that you can now deploy in other areas. So you started something called the Freedom Auto Auction. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So everything we do, I try to have it feed each other. I would never go out and buy a pizza shop because a pizza shop doesn't have anything to do with the car business. Mm-hmm. But we were looking at developing some online auction ideas, and we're still developing some software along those lines that we're hoping to launch sometime in 2022. And along those lines, we needed to have a auction format, a brick and mortar auction format. And when I looked further into the amount of vehicles that we were sending weekly to the auto auction, and you just start to calculate the fees, and you're spending $15,000, $20,000 in fees a week in auction fees. And I looked at this small auction in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I kept going down there. And I worked on that deal for a long time, but it just made sense because we can feed it. As a dealer group, we can feed that. And it was a struggling auction. It was still profitable, but it was struggling. And it actually needed a group like us to come along and kind of save it because we came and doubled the capacity of the auction. We doubled the volume. We doubled the sales. And we immediately turned that around. So it just fit perfectly well. And it's in Freedom Township, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and we called it Freedom Auto Auction. And we're really excited about it because I think that we have a vision for that to transform into an online public auto auction format that we're working on, which will help both Platinum Retail and it'll help Freedom Auto Auction on the wholesale side. So we're hoping to tie that all together. So it made sense for us to do it.
Awesome. I love it. I love the fact that it's correlative to your primary business and that there's such a great symbiotic relationship between the two. It makes all the sense in the world. Talk to me about Ambition Media. I think there's another example.
It's kind of along the same lines. My passion has always been in the marketing side of things. I never really chose the car business. I've never claimed that I'm a car guy. I'm probably the worst guy in the world for product knowledge. I mean, I have no idea what motor's in my car that I'm driving.
I may rival you for that, buddy.
Yeah,
that has never been my strong suit.
People ask me what's in my car that I've had for 2 years, and I say, I don't know, but it's fast. I don't know. It runs good. But Ambition Media, all came about because I was looking at, I love doing my own marketing. I was doing my own production of my own commercials. I was doing my own video production. I already had that in line. I was booking media through a media company. And when I figured out that the media company was getting, 15% return or commission on all the media spend. And at that time I was spending about $100,000 in media, and I had projections to get to 200,000 plus a month in media spend. And it just made sense to me. I said, well, I should do this. First of all, the media company that I dealt with didn't offer production. I did my own production, so I already had half the equation. I had the production side of it done. I just needed to
figure out. Which, by the way, is probably the most labor-intensive piece of it, in my opinion.
I just had to figure out how to buy the media. And my meeting to buy media once a month was about an hour long. And I was like, I'm paying 15% for an hour-long meeting to buy media. So I could probably figure that out. And that was the launch of it. And we really are taking it to another level because we've brought on other clients that aren't automotive related to Ambition Media. We're expanding right now. We have a professional sound studio that we do. We're recording for a lot of artists in the local area. We're just now going through an expansion of that. We're building 2 new studios. So we're going to have 3 professional sound studios. We have a videography studio. We have in-house videography. We have an in-house social media team. So it fits to what we do. When I go to work, I go to my corporate office, which houses our business development center side and the media side. And I look at that. That's the engine that drives everything, including Freedom Auto Auction, right? So the media, the production, the marketing that comes out of that, and the response that comes through our BDC, and we serve it up. We're kind of like the kitchen, right, for the village, right? So we're going to take all the food and we're going to serve it to the stores, and that's how I like controlling those 2 parts of it.
Well, I think it's brilliant. As I said, there's such great symbiosis between all 3 of the businesses. It makes total sense. And, your growth as a leader, where you've been able to effectively delegate and create a culture where there's reciprocal accountability, I think gives you the freedom, no pun intended, to pull that off. Because I'm sure with 3 different businesses like that, you're pulled in multiple different directions on a regular basis. And so it becomes difficult to manage it if you don't have the right talent and you don't have the right kind of culture and systems in place to keep it all organized.
And I've learned that over the years, and I'm spoiled at this point because I have the best number 2s. I always say I have 20 number 2s, and I have this crew that I could literally walk away, and that's what I wanted to build. I wanted to build a company that wasn't reliant on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I love driving this company. I love being at the helm. I love everything I do, but I don't want to build a company that relies so solely on me. Right. So that's how I built it. And if God forbid something happened to me tomorrow, the company would go on. Right. And it's nice to know that I have the right people in place to do that. And I trust in them. And, sometimes I sit there and think, back in the day when I first got to my first store got so big and was controlling itself, I used to sit there and think, now what do I do? That's why I did the second store. And I still get that feeling all the time. It's like, I get things situated. I get the right people in place. I recruit very well. Everything's delegated out. Everything's going great. They're moving. And then I get to a point, okay, now what do I do? And that's the other part of the growth mindset is like, I want to keep myself challenged and I want to keep moving forward. So that's the other part of the growth mindset as well.
Yeah, I think that serves you on 2 different fronts, Mike. I think, your ability to detach in a way and at a level that you do affords your people the opportunity to take your business to the next level, because a lot of times when we tie our businesses so closely to us personally, it becomes very subjective and it inhibits growth. Yeah. And then when you have a chance to focus outside of that business, it gives you a chance to take a look around and see what other opportunities exist to now grow the greater business in total. So I really admire and respect the way that you have evolved as a leader and as an entrepreneur over your career. I've got such a great feel for that now after having this conversation. We're coming up on 49 minutes or so we always want to be respectful of your time.
Yes.
But I do want to ask you two quick questions and see if Ron's got anything left to ask as well. Ron, you got anything?
Yeah, I do actually. So, Mike, one thing that I've always noticed as I've seen you from Clubhouse, was where I originally was exposed to you. Yeah. How effective you are at helping your community. I watch you give away these cars, and I think it's such a wonderful freaking thing.
Awesome.
Can you talk a little bit about how you got started on that and what really sparked it, and the feedback that you get from the community?
I get such positive feedback, and with the cars we give away and the charity that we do, we're going to be over $250,000 in 2022. So
wow.
And I'll be honest with you, man, like that's the other thing, outside of giving people opportunities, is just giving back, man. Yep. And like, there's so many good causes out there. We have 12 months of charity, and we've done the Hershey Children's Hospital, Ronald McDonald. We've done a blood drive. We've done Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so many more. That I love that part of it. I just love being in a position that I can give back, right? And I don't do it for the gratitude. I don't do it for any. I just do it because it's the right thing to do. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of people get caught up and they get successful and they get money and they get greedy and they covet their, and like, let it go. And it's the same thing with my employees. I mean, the reason why I like to think I pay well, and because I want to take care of them. Right. I want to feed the people that helped me get where I'm at, and then also feed the people that can't feed themselves, in a sense, right? Not feed them, really speaking, but I want to give that back, right? Because the community is what built me up, right? My employees are what built me up. If I'm not gracious enough to give back to it, who am I? That's just a bad place to be, right?
Yeah, no question. I love that.
I tell you, I've watched some of the Facebook posts as well, and I can sense when something is disingenuous, and that is not the case with you at all. I suspect there's probably moments in time over the course of the last few years when you've done one of the giveaways where you went home that night, sat down, poured yourself a beer, a bourbon, a glass of wine, whatever it is, and really had a moment to yourself where you're almost overtaken by the sense of gratitude for the opportunity to touch somebody's life that way.
I say that constantly. When people thank me, I always just say, I'm so thankful that I'm in the position to be able to do this. Because there's, I've seen other people that are in positions to do that and they don't act on it. Yep. And I never understood why. You got multi-billionaires that could break off millions of dollars in a second, right? And they won't, because they're so consumed with their own growth. And look, you can only eat one steak a day. I can only drive one nice car. I can only have one nice house. I got one nice pair of shoes I can wear a day. So how much do I really need, right? I mean, I'm at a level where I'm content with the things I have. I'm content with the things my family has. I'm content with the situation our company's in. So of course I'm going to give back, right? And it's just, I think something that everyone that gets to a level of success should do is put that hand back out to the people that helped get you to where you're at, which is the community and your employees.
Amen to that.
Good points.
Amen to that. And use the right word too, content versus satisfied. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And when folks understand the difference between the two, that's when you start to see exactly what you're describing here. It's the opportunity to go out and touch a life or lives or a family's life in a way that stays with you for the rest of your life. Yeah. And that's the true gift. Everybody thinks that the gift is what you're giving away. The real gift is what you're getting in return.
The best story I have is my friend called me. He does a pancreatic cancer foundation. I go run, and I'm a big supporter. It's every November in Malibu. It's a great cause. It's called Pants Off Racing, POR. And he called me 2 years ago, and he said, hey, I got this guy. He lives near you in West Virginia. He's dying of pancreatic cancer, and he's got this $40,000 payoff on his truck and all this stuff. He said, can you help him? I said, well, I could try to buy him out of his truck or something. I bring him and his wife into my office. They drive up from West Virginia to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. They sit there, and they were just in a really bad spot financially. It was just, he's dying. It was just tragic. And it just overcame me. And I sat back at my desk and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I said, I'm going to give you a car. And they just, like, their mouths dropped. And that's where I got the idea to give away the cars, was that
That's
moment.
right.
He said,
Wow.
I'm going to give you a brand new car. And they just, listen, that like they went into tears when I got up and I told them, I'm going to take their trade, I'm going to pay it off, and you're going to leave here with a car debt free. Right?
Makes me emotional now thinking about it.
This lady,
buddy, I'm choked up right now because Ron and I talk about things like this all the time.
The lady, and we're still friends on Facebook, and we've become friends over the years. And she hugged me. I think it's the longest hug I've literally, like, it's one of those ones where it's uncomfortable. You're like, it's time to let go now.
Let go now.
Yeah, but it was beautiful, and that probably made me feel better than any achievement, financially or business related, that I ever had. That moment made me feel better than any of that stuff.
Well, it's a sign of great leadership. You talked about it early on, which was empathy. There are all different forms of empathy, and so when you can truly feel someone else's challenge, difficulties, pain, and do something small or large to help assuage that, man, there's no greater gift. So I've been on the giving and receiving end of that, and I can tell you that's what chokes me up when I hear stuff like that. I love you for it. It's part of the reason why I've got this bro crush on you, because of the way you live your life.
Hey, we're definitely cut from the same cloth, Sandy. We're very like-minded people.
I appreciate you. And I got to tell you, the comments that are coming in from all of our friends out there, my buddy Michael Poro, one of the freaking best people on the planet. Dustin Sutherland, another one. Zach Lieberman. I saw Heavy D, Demetrius Naylor chiming in as well. Simone Jai, we just connected. Larry Feldman, Russell Hill, Melvin Rodriguez, JB, John Bannon checking in. I mean, all these folks.
What's up, JB?
And then I see Ron's guy, Ryan Natali, checking in and telling Ron, keep killing it, bro. But the point is that, the level of engagement right now from people in our audience, identifying with the type of person and leader that you are, speaks to exactly why I wanted you on in the first place. And so I thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
I got a couple questions just to round out, because I don't want to let you go without asking a couple of questions about the future of the business, because we're in a really interesting place right now. I know between the two of us, we probably span, multiple decades, 50, 60 years in the business between us. I've never seen anything like what we've seen over the last 2 years. I don't think the world has seen anything like it. But what challenges do you see short and long term, and what opportunities do you see short and long term as we move forward in the industry?
Well, it's definitely a very odd time. It's a challenging time. I had a discussion with one of my good friends this morning about this. We find ourselves in this real peculiar situation where inventory levels are really low. Vehicles are hard to get. You have to pay through the nose. But at the same time, on the other side of it, you have inflation and gas prices and this reluctancy to spend money. So, this teetering on, recession. At the same time, we have an inventory shortage. So it's kind of counterweights itself. And listen, I just think that you have to be very calculated and almost a couple times a day be checking yourself on your calculations and your inventory levels and how aggressive you are, right? And this is a time where you have to be very diligent in your planning and not get caught with your pants down, so to speak, because I think it's very easy to happen. And I do think we're going into a rough few months. I think June, July, and August are going to be the hangover that we've been reluctantly forgetting about. The country's been partying. It's Friday night. The country's been out partying, right? We've been out partying till 3 a.m. It's one more shot. Do you want to do one more shot? Do you want to do one more shot? No one's looked at their watch and said, hey, you know what? We got to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, guess what? Now it's time to get up and work at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And we're going to feel some pain. But the good side of that is, once you have that hangover and you get through that, which is the next few months, I think we're going to go through it. There's no avoiding it, right? Once you go through that little hangover, I think that you're going to say, hey, I don't want to go drinking like that again, right? So you're going to learn your lesson, and things are going to level out. And I think the country by the fourth quarter of this year is going to level out. Where I see opportunity, which was the second part of your question, is I see opportunity everywhere, because there's two different types of people in this business environment. We're in the middle of chaos, right? And that's what's going on. No one can make sense of this chaos. And we're right smack in the middle. So back to the military. This is like combat. Combat is chaos. That's the epitome of
yes,
chaos.
sir.
Right. So you have two different types of approaches when you get to combat. You have that warrior mentality that's going to run in and run to that fight. Now it's going to be trained, calculated, and it's not going to make mistakes, but it's still going to run to the fight. And then you have the guy that's just going to sit back and say, oh, I'm not going to get in that fight. That's scary. That's chaos. I'm going to just go hide behind this rock over here. Now, the guy that runs into the fight, you have one of two outcomes. You're either coming out a hero or you're getting your head taken off. So it depends on how calculated you are, how skilled you are, and how adept you are to handling that combat is your chances of coming out a hero. And I like to bet on me in that scenario, which I'm going to run into it. I'm going to run into it. If I get my head taken off, I took the risk. I knew the risk, but I wanted to come out the other side.
Well, bro, I think you use a great analogy with respect to we're at the bar, doing shot after shot, because I'm going to tie that right into Michael Poro's question, which you may see on the screen. He says, is Mike coming to Business Bourbon and Cigars in September?
I'll be there in September.
And I'll tell you, Mikey D, I promise you this, it will never be a waste of your time. You'll add a incredible amount of value to the room. I know that for sure, but I know you'll also take away an incredible amount of value because it's so peer driven. But we will be having a bourbon or two. And I will tell you, and I will tell you that if I was in battle, in combat, and it was chaotic, and I was in the foxhole, I'd want to look to my left and see you, and my right and see Ron.
Likewise.
8 days a week. 8 days a week, bro. I so appreciate you for who you are, what you do, and how you do it, most importantly, and with who you do it with, right? I mean, my man, Mr. Hartle, showing him some love right now. You got to make sure you give him a bro hug for me, please. I want to do this with you again, buddy. Ultimately, I think let's come back in the fourth quarter and let's see where we're at, because I agree with you. I think we're in for some turmoil here as we head into the November elections.
It's going to be tough.
I'm going to stay away from the political side and just tell you that, November is going to be a bellwether month for this country and for the future of the globe.
I agree.
And I think we'll wind up in the fourth quarter in a lot better spot than we are.
I think so too. I'm very confident in the fourth quarter of this year. I think inventory levels are going to be back. I think, there is going to be a backlash to the policies and stuff that are going on right now. I think there's going to be a correction of sorts. And
it's already correcting.
Yeah, it's already correcting. And I think we're going to go into the end of the year. And I think, that hangover is going to kind of wear off a little bit. We'll be back to normal. And hopefully we could get back to some sense of pre-COVID normalcy where it's just steady business. I mean, this has been a very unique time where you have these peaks and valleys and you enjoy it, right? But it's looking down that other side that's not comfortable.
Yeah,
and,
I hear you.
And sometimes I would rather not have the peaks if I have to come down hard on the other side, right? I'd rather just be steady Eddie.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you know what the market's like. The market's like certainty and steadiness. That's when you start to see them do what they've done over the last few years. But here's the deal. We can do what we can do. And as you said before, you've got to calculate, recalculate, calibrate, recalibrate, and keep as Ron says it perfectly, keep calm in a state of chaos and make smart or the best decisions you can with the intel that you have. That's the one thing I tell you, I continue to preach, which is in a world that's, perpetually dominated by technology, data, and the digital piece. We still have to use that as a resource, not a replacement for great decision-making and intuition. And you said it before, decisiveness is one of the hallmarks of great leadership. Definitely. And you've got to be decisive, but you also have to be willing to make a calibration or recalculation along the way.
Yes.
So I thank you, buddy. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are going to get out to visit you guys. Ron and I, we got to take it on the road at some point and come see you. I would love the chance to shake your hand in person. We'll go
I'll see you in September.
Yeah, we'll definitely see you in September.
In September and Ron.
That's a fact. We're counting on it, buddy. In the meantime, make sure you follow my man Mikey D on all his social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere. Once again, I'm going to tell you that today's broadcast was produced by Sandy Cerami Associates with executive producer, my man, Mr. Ron Marvo. Make sure you like across the board and subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the meantime, got to step up to stand out, gentlemen, and we are out. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, buddy.
See you, man.